A very warm welcome. You're watching NDTV 24/7. I'm Shanakshi Chakrabarti. The big story we're tracking: 3 days and 30 hours of questioning. Congress leader Rahul Gandhi has been summoned again on Friday by the Enforcement Directorate in a money laundering case linked to the National Herald newspaper. Officials have said that the Congress MP had sought exemption for Thursday, which was allowed. NDTV's Arvind Gunasekar with all the details.
After over 30 hours of questioning in the last 3 days, former Congress President Rahul Gandhi has been again summoned by the Enforcement Directorate for further questioning on Friday. Rahul Gandhi, after almost 9 hours of questioning on day 3, left the ED office somewhere close to 9:30 p.m. So at around 11:30 a.m. Rahul Gandhi joined the investigation, and then he was questioned for almost 3.5 hours in the first half of the day. After which again he resumed. He appeared before the agency somewhere around 4 o'clock, and again the agency continued with its investigation, and then he was let out somewhere close to 9:30 p.m. So in total, in the last 3 days, the Enforcement Directorate has grilled him for over 30 hours. And what we are being told by our sources that the Enforcement Directorate still has more questions to ask Rahul Gandhi, and because Rahul Gandhi sought a time break tomorrow for his personal commitment, and that's why Enforcement Directorate agreed to this particular request and has now asked him to appear before the agency on Friday, where the Enforcement Directorate is expected to again grill him with the new set of questions in connection with the alleged transaction that happened between Young India Limited and also Associated Journal Limited.
And as the race to the Raisina heats up, Union Minister Rajnath Singh spoke to Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee and other opposition leaders today regarding the presidential elections that are due next month. Sources have indicated that the government will try to form consensus with the opposition, and no names were discussed at this stage. The other leaders Mr. Singh has spoken to include Congress's Mallikarjun Kharge, BJD Chief Naveen Patnaik and Samajwadi Party's Akhilesh Yadav. Mr. Singh also spoke to one ally, Bihar Chief Minister Nitish Kumar, whose relationship with the BJP has hit a rough patch since the 2020 Assembly election. Take a look.
An opposition show of strength led by Mamata Banerjee for the presidential polls. The West Bengal Chief Minister proposed the name of 81 years old NCP Chief Sharad Pawar right at the beginning. But the man who is holding the Maharashtra coalition together declined, saying he still had a political innings to play.
I personally, even all the members of the meeting, they unanimously suggested Sharad Pawar's name. Unanimously. If Sharad Pawar is agreed, is okay, but he said he is not interested. And if not, then the name should be come from the political parties. They will consult Sharadji, consult with others, and then it will be decided.
Sources say none of the other parties had any names to propose. And towards the end of the meeting, the West Bengal Chief Minister suggested the names of former Governor Gopal Gandhi and National Conference Chief Farooq Abdullah as potential opposition presidential candidates. Sources say there was chaos at the meeting when Mamata proposed a resolution against the Modi government. Several parties said it should have been circulated earlier and that this meeting should stick to the presidential polls agenda. The opposition leaders will meet again on the 20th or 21st of June to decide on this.
No, the subcommittee has not been finalized. All the leaders of the parties have decided, requested Kharge-ji, Mamata Banerjee and Sharad Pawarji to contact each and every leader for the next meeting.
But if the meeting was meant to be a show of strength for the opposition, it was not an ideal start, with key parties staying away or not being invited. 22 parties were called, but there were 5 key absentees, including the TRS and the Aam Aadmi Party. Fence-sitters like the Biju Janata Dal, which have helped the BJP in the past, also stayed away. The elephant in the room turning out to be the Congress, in a weak position electorally, yet still the largest national party. Most of the parties, including Mamata Banerjee's TMC, are fighting the Congress on home ground. The TRS raised strong objections to the Congress being invited, saying there was no question of sharing any platform with the party. Aam Aadmi Party and the Akali Dal also stayed away. The Congress and the left attended today's meeting despite their frosty ties with Mamata. But opposition unity is clearly easier said than done. With key players staying away from the opposition, it's a tough task to take on the NDA in the presidential polls with the numbers clearly in the BJP's favor. With Himanshu Shekhar, Usama Shah for NDTV.
And India said on Wednesday it would reserve part of its next generation telecom spectrum for private in-house networks as the government announced a 5G auction to take place by the end of July. But how will the 5G really change your life? Let's listen in.
5G could be a reality in India soon as the government has given its final approval to a proposal for directly allocating airwaves to enterprises, paving the way for them to operate private 5G networks. Now this means 5G services will be rolled out soon. A total of 72 gigahertz of spectrum for 20 years will be put to auction to be held by the end of July. Now the government says the time is not far away when India is going to emerge as a leading country in the field of 5G technology and in fact the upcoming 6G technology. Now what's in it for you and me? What will change in our lives? Well, a lot. 5G is expected to be 10 times faster than 4G. If it takes you 10 minutes to download a movie or a game now, it'll be done in just a minute when 5G rolls out. The government says upcoming 5G services can create new age businesses and bonus, it could be good for the planet as well. US telecom company Verizon says 5G can reduce up to 90% of our power consumption, and you might not have to even travel abroad for surgeries as instant data transmission and analysis could enable remote surgeries with the surgeon being far away from the patient. Robots and machines could be operated from miles away, and this also paves way for human-less automatic cars in the future. Now, a necessary step towards making 5G a reality has been taken today. Country's three main telecom companies, Vi, Airtel and Jio, are expected to participate in the bidding. Whoever wins will get the spectrum license to provide 5G access across India. Experts say 5G will reach many more people than 4G and could be a reality for India in the next 1.5 years.
That it will cover a larger number of people. Say, for example, in an area where 4G will connect 4,000 people, 5G will connect 40,000 people. My hunch is that it will take between 1.5 to 2 years.
But what is concerning, however, in the country is that daily COVID cases are rising, especially in states like Maharashtra and Delhi. Now, the Delhi positivity rate almost doubles in a week, whereas Mumbai's positivity rate up from 9% to 13% in just a week. Meanwhile, there has been an uptick in COVID cases among children. Take a look.
ये रिपीट एक्सरे हमने 2 घंटे के बाद में एक्सरे किया, जिस एक्सरे में पूरी की पूरी तरीके से फेफड़ा वाइट आउट हो चुका है उसका, और कंडीशन काफ़ी ज़्यादा डिटोरिएट होने लगी थी, और हमने उसका कोविड टेस्ट भी किया था जो कि कोविड एंटीजन पॉजिटिव आया उसका, इसलिए फिर हमने कोविड RT-PCR भी भेजा, दैट आल्सो केम पॉजिटिव.
Dr. Irfan Ali, a pediatrician associated with major hospitals in Mumbai, shows the X-ray report of a 4-month-old COVID-positive boy and explains he died 6 days ago after developing sudden breathing problems. The child's mother had taken both doses of the vaccine.
बेबी के जो सिम्टम्स थे जनरली जो देखे जाते हैं कि कफ, कोल्ड, फीवर, इस तरीके के बिल्कुल भी सिम्टम्स नहीं थे ये बेबी को. सिम्टम्स रात में जस्ट ब्रेथलेसनेस स्टार्ट हुआ और विद इन 6 to 8 आवर्स में बच्चे काफ़ी कंडीशन खराब हुआ और एक्सपायर हो गया.
Doctors say that for the past 2 weeks, children with fever, vomiting and shortness of breath have been turning up at hospitals, and around 4 out of 10 are found to be COVID positive. Even in bigger hospitals like Wadia Children's Hospital, Fortis, Hinduja, the number of COVID-infected children has increased in the last 2 weeks. But most of the children are with mild symptoms.
Parents अपने आप बच्चों की टेस्ट कर रहे हैं क्योंकि उनको कोविड पॉजिटिव हुआ है इसी कारण से. But मोस्टली बच्चों को असिम्टोमेटिक्स, मतलब उनको कोई भी सिम्टम्स नहीं है, उनमें कोई फीचर्स नहीं है, या बुखार भी है तो उसकी मात्रा कम है, तो ऐसे नंबर्स काफी ज्यादा है बच्चों में, और इसीलिए अपने को कोई चिंता करने की जरूरत नहीं है.
Around 21,000 new COVID cases have been reported in Mumbai in a month, and about 9% of patients are said to be under the age of 19.
हमने अराउंड 15 से 20 बच्चे जिनको कोविड संक्रमण हुआ है ये देखा है. मेजॉरिटी बच्चों में माइल्ड इलनेसेस ही हुई है, जैसे उनकी लक्षण है सर्दी, खांसी, बुखार.
In the national capital of Delhi, the infection rate is doubling and COVID cases has been seeing a sharp rise with numbers going up 5 times in a week. On June 6th, there were around 247 corona cases in Delhi, while the infection rate was at 3.47%. And a week later, on June 14th, new cases have risen to 1,118, while the infection rate has gone up to nearly 6.50%. Among the states that show a sharp rise in cases is the southern state Karnataka. Nearly 30 students have tested positive at 2 different schools in Dasarahalli, north part of Bengaluru. Speaking exclusively to NDTV, Commissioner for Health D. Randeep says that it's not a cause of concern.
These children have been completely isolated now, and most of them are asymptomatic.
With the rise in cases of COVID numbers across the country, the worrying trend here is with children as young as 10-year-olds catching COVID. In fact, most of the states have reported huge numbers of kids catching COVID, and this seems to be even more worrying because now summer vacations have ended and also schools have resumed classes. But however, the government says that it's very premature at this point in time to just go back to complete online mode. With Pooja and Saurabh, Shrija for NDTV.
Meanwhile, news from Chandigarh, the CBI had on Wednesday arrested an accused named Kalyani Singh, daughter of Himachal Pradesh High Court's acting Chief Justice Sabina, the first person to have been arrested in the case relating to Sippy Sidhu's murder. And as you can see, the first person to have been arrested in the case, even though she was reported to be a suspect for long. Kalyani Singh is believed to have been accompanying another person who shot Sippy Sidhu. The murder was the result of a relationship gone sour, sources have indicated to NDTV. Aditya Thackeray was in Uttar Pradesh's temple town Ayodhya on Wednesday. The first solo visit of the 32-year-old comes at a time when ex-allies, the BJP and the Shiv Sena, have been trading barbs non-stop over who is more aligned with the Hindutva ideology. Here is a report.
No politics, insisted Aditya Thackeray on his first solo visit to the temple town Ayodhya in what is being seen as a passing of the baton to the 32-year-old who was brought into politics by Sena patriarch Bal Thackeray, a Hindutva icon. Aditya Thackeray's Ayodhya visit came at a time when the BJP and Mr. Thackeray's party, the Shiv Sena, have been trading scathing barbs on who is the bigger Hindutvavadi.
इसी के साथ आज जब हम आए हैं तो ये कोई राजनीति का विषय नहीं है, ये हमारी खुद की आस्था का विषय। पूरा शिवसेना परिवार यहाँ आया है। आज भगवान श्री राम का दर्शन लेते हुए यही हम प्रार्थना करेंगे कि हमारे हाथों से जो भी देश की सेवा हो, महाराष्ट्र की सेवा हो, लोगों की सेवा हो, अच्छी हो।
But back home in Maharashtra, the Sena, accused of moving away from Hindutva by the BJP, has hit back, saying the BJP's Hindutva is fake. Mr. Thackeray's Ayodhya visit is being interpreted as the Shiv Sena's reiteration of its commitment to the Hindutva ideology, as it accuses the BJP of double standards and using proxies like Raj Thackeray to target it. Relations between the two parties worsened after the Sena parted ways and joined hands with the Nationalist Congress Party and the Congress to form a government in Maharashtra.
म्हणाले बाबरी मशीद पडली तेव्हा कुठल्या बिळात होते? हा देवेंद्र फडणवीस त्या ठिकाणी तो ढाचा पाडण्याकरता होता. एकही शिवसेनेचा नेता त्या ठिकाणी हजर नव्हता, एकही नाही.
तुम्ही बाबरी पाडल्यानंतर शेपट्या आत घालून बसला होतात आणि तुमची विधभर नाही कित्येक मैल पळापळ झाली होती. ने पटकन बोललेलं बरं, नाही तर तुमचा गैरसमज व्हायचा.
Aditya Thackeray's visit to Ayodhya was as much as about optics back home as it was about visiting this temple town itself. Whether this escalates this so-called Hindutva or nationalism war between the BJP and the Shiv Sena in Maharashtra remains to be seen. With camera person Rajesh Gupta, this is Alok Pandey, NDTV.
Now have all the fun at your wedding, but don't get fined, because this groom's grand wedding reception has cost him 2 lakh fine in Uttar Pradesh, as his grand wedding procession was taking place out on the streets in Uttar Pradesh. The groom, along with his friends, was seen dancing in an open roof Audi on a busy road in Muzaffarnagar in a video that has now gone viral on social media. All right, and now we would like to thank all our viewers, because NDTV has been named the most watched news channel in India by the prestigious Reuters Institute at Oxford University. The same report lists NDTV's website as the most popular news website. We are very, very grateful to all our television and digital audiences for trusting us with the news and for supporting independent journalism. And with that, it's a wrap from all of us on this bulletin, but stay tuned to NDTV for all the latest.